If you're serious about investing in property, this could be the best decision that you make. So why invest with a limited company? First of all, this is not financial advice. It's just based on my own personal experience of buying over 1,000 properties for myself and my investors over the last 10 years. First of all, lower tax rates. We love paying tax, don't we? No, we don't. HMRC do one. So tax as a personal individual. So when you buy it in an individual name, you are likely to pay income tax when you're owning buy-to-let property over the long term. And this is going to be taxed at either 20%, 40% or 45% dependent on what level of income you earn. And considering you maybe have saved up money, I'm going to guess that a lot of us are at that 40% mark at least. In a company, which is I own the company and then the company buys the property, then the tax is actually lower. You don't pay income tax, you pay corporation tax. And that's going to be between 19% to 25%. Almost everyone watching this, it's going to be 19% for you. It's only when you earn, we're talking like 6 figures plus in the net profit, that we're going to end up paying that higher rate. Might not seem like a big difference, by the way, but actually that 19% even versus the 20% tax can add up to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, over the next few decades alone. It is worth noting that with tax, it really depends what you're looking to do with the money. Most of my investors that are looking to scale their buy-to-let portfolio, it's all about preserving wealth. And so often they're reinvesting the money and scaling up, and if anything, putting more money in it over time. However, if you are taking money out, just bear in mind you will have dividend tax, okay? And dividend tax ranges again on your personal income. Top tip with that, most people won't end up paying dividend tax because of something called DLA. DLA is a director's loan account, and keep this really simple. If I, Jamie York, have 100,000 and I want to invest it and I want to buy it in a limited company, then I'll put that 100K into the company. That's not a gift. That is called a loan, a director's loan account. And so that company, even if it's mine, owes me that 100,000. And that's really important to remember, because the majority of the time, if I do want to take profits from the business, I'm not going to pay dividend tax on it. I'm actually just going to pay myself back some of the money that I originally loaned it. Next is interest rate relief. So we're not going to get into the technicalities of Section 24, but at some point a few years ago, the government decided that, by the way, you know that interest rate that you pay, which is the majority of your cost of being a landlord? Yeah, that's not going to be a legitimate business expense anymore. Now, again, this does depend on what taxpayer you are. There is some relief up to 20%, but then that interest doesn't actually count as a logical expense, which is absolutely moronic, borderline criminal, by the way, but this ain't the video for me to go off on one on that. If you own it in a company, then Section 24 doesn't exist for you. So 100% of the interest that you're paying on the mortgage, which is interest only almost all the time, it's 100% tax deductible. Just so you know, like the damage of this, just as a holistic thing, I know portfolio landlords, portfolio being they own multiple properties, that had retired making 10,000 a month after tax, and that was paying for them, the missus, whatever it was that they needed to retire, and they'd worked their entire life getting towards this. And then once Section 24's come in, they're only making around 2,500 a month. I'm not bullshitting you. That's how much of a difference it made, because people built their portfolio in their personal names. Next is you can build a portfolio more efficiently. You want to not just buy one property, you want to really scale this up. And the reason for that is it's easier to expense against a business. So when you own a business where you're doing work towards things, it's a lot easier to put expenses against any earnings. And what this means is your profit isn't eroding through tax, and so we can reinvest back into the growth of the portfolio more effectively. Now, remember, I'm not financially qualified to give tax advice. This is just based on advice that I've been given and investing over the last decade. Now, no matter how you want to do it, the fact that what I'm promoting within a limited company is it's a lot more flexible with any arrangements, including if I wanted to sell the properties within this limited company. Maybe I don't even need to sell the properties, maybe I could sell the limited company, which makes it a lot more appealing for an end buyer. So many long-term benefits and flexibility. Included in this is when I pass on my wealth. Again, this is maybe a bit too complex for this video, but I don't want to accumulate my wealth, take loads of risks over the next decade too, and then have my kids to inherit the property and eventually, let's face it, lose 50% of the value in their first divorce. Maybe a bit harsh, but the reality is I want my wealth to be protected and I don't want to pay 40% fucking inheritance tax. Like, you screwed me for my whole life, don't screw me in death as well. And so by having it in a company, there's so much flexibility. So you can get A shares, B shares, C shares, I'm not going into it, that my family can have before I die, and so it really reduces the amount of tax. Maybe I could incorporate it into a trust, and so that my family will benefit from it, but not be able to sell off the properties or do anything stupid, because it's not just about my wealth, it's about preserving the long-term benefits of boring vanilla buy-to-let properties. Now, quick tip with this, there are some higher setup costs. So the things you need to be aware of is naturally they're setting up a limited company with the right structure. If you use an accountant to do this might cost a couple of £100. You can set it up yourself for like £18 or something like that. Just make sure you do it with the right shares and things like that. There's also slightly higher costs to the mortgages. So it's nothing to do with it being better or worse. There's just less lenders that loan to a limited company versus an individual. And naturally, when the supply is lower, the costs are going to be a bit more. But we're talking like 0.5% interest over each annual basis, so a year, not a big deal. The real thing to think of is, how long-term is this investment for you? You're not buying a buy-to-let to sell it in a year or two, right? I always say to people, my exit is death. And people laugh at it. I'm like, no, I'm genuinely serious. I don't think I will ever sell any properties in my portfolio unless something drastic happens. And so every move that I make today is about 10 to 20 years from now. And that's the strategic move that I'm looking for. Really important to understand this is short-term pain for long-term gain. Listen, the reality is there's a lot of complexities to building your property portfolio, and you must get expert advice. Now, as I said, look, I'm not financially qualified in some of these areas, but I am connected to some of the best in the UK right now. You need to get a great team around you. You need the expert. So if you're watching this going, I've got the money to invest in the portfolio, but I need to get this right, put APG in the comments right now. Don't delay it. Typically, you need about 50K per property, so minimum of 50K to invest in property. But what we do at Aspire, APG is Aspire Property Group, we help people just like you set up and scale up their property portfolios using none of your own time, none of your own knowledge. And the reason we do that is we've done it for over a decade. We've done over 1,000 completions over the last 10 years. We've got the best people in the business to make sure you're protecting your investment and accumulating and scaling your wealth. So if you want to have no obligation whatsoever, you want to have a free one-to-one strategy session, figure out where you're at, where you want to get to, and see if we can help you along the way, put APG in the comments right now and we'll be in touch. I'll send you a link. You can book in that call. By the way, if you've been watching this, you got value, hit that like button and it will help me out tremendously. Do you know over 50% of you that watch multiple of my videos aren't even subscribers? Let's change that right now. Hit the subscribe, the notification bell, and you're going to want to watch the next video.